I would say one of my big visions and my dreams have been to do a lot more speaking engagements ever since I was in high school. And in all honesty, it's not that I like seeing my name up on lights. I do enjoy it. Like, I enjoy the energy that I get from crowds and stuff like that. But I love the prep that goes into it, because it makes me, it almost forces me to kind of cut myself open and to get ready for these talks, to piece this stuff together. It makes me change the way I'm thinking about life in a way. And I've become addicted to the prep. I think a lot of drivers, just in motorsports, so it's not just like Monster Jam or anything. I think a lot of drivers love to just drive. And I love driving too. Like, it's the best job in the world, driving something that's 12,000 pounds and 12 feet tall like that. But to me, it's not enough just to have the platform of driving. Like, I think that what an incredible opportunity this is to be a professional Monster Jam driver. How crazy would I not be to look at this and say, what's the biggest possible platform I could use? Because I believe my purpose is to impact the world through motorsports. So what, is that just doing backflips in the truck? No. Like, it's learning how to communicate and maximizing the platform while I've got it, because I'm not going to have the platform forever. You know, my name will go out in the stadium lights. There will be another driver of the Mohawk Warrior one day. I won't get to, you know, be a professional crash test dummy forever, as I like to call it. And so while I've got the lights on, and while my name is up in stadiums and stuff like that, I've got to make sure that I'm not only just taking advantage of the opportunity, but can we make the biggest impact possible? And I think of them as ripple effects. So the size of the ripple effects that we make and the impact we make is like throwing a stone in a pond. And the bigger the rock you throw, right? It's not just you, anyone can make a splash, anyone. But can you create these massive ripple effects that actually reach the shoreline? And even the ripple effects have an end to them. But that's what I hope that this actually accomplishes. And that's why we work so hard. My wife allows me to go out and do this. And my kids are understanding, because they know we're giving of ourselves. And it's that gear of becoming built for other people. And it's like, what is the acceptable cost to being able to go and do this? I don't know. I haven't found the maximum of that number, because it's to me, it's endless. If you're called to do something, and if you genuinely believe that you can actually go out there and make an impact, how selfish would you have to be to just be built for yourself? But sometimes it takes us finding that built for other people gear and actually making a conscious decision to do that, because all of us have stuff going on in life, and it's all very, very distracting at times too. I get asked sometimes what's my favorite gear, and honestly, it's the next one. I don't know what my next gear is, but so the better question is coming back to, okay, out of your 7 gears that you talk about in Geared for Life, what's your favorite gear? And I think it's my thrash gear. It's emptying the tank. And what that gear is talking about is, I think we can all run harder than we realize we can. And if we understand where the finish line is, and if we also understand what is going to enable us and allow us to refill our tanks, like you're not scared to go out there and run as hard as you possibly can at your dreams and burn both ends of the candle. You're not afraid of that, because you know where you'll get filled back up. And so for me, it's family, it's prayer, it's podcasts. I've really enjoyed just podcasts and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just mowing the grass. Like, it's getting a small win. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, I think most people are where they're at in life because they let the small failures build up, and then they think they're a failure. The 4 points I want to make today is, find your focal point. I call them the 4 Fs. It's find your focal point, fully commit, find your bearings, and then fan the flame. And so those 4 points really drive home that shift from good to great. But the big thing I want people to take away from this talk, because this is a keynote I'm going to continue to give the rest of my career. To me, it's that dynamic. It's entertaining, it's educational, it's motivational. There's a lot of heart there. I love throwing my heart out on the table. The same steps, those same 4 steps to completing a Monster Jam backflip is really what, in my own story, allowed me to shift from good to great, to find that next gear I never knew I had. It just fits perfectly, and it's something that's genuine to me being able to give. I feel like I'm giving it to the audience, like a gift, because I feel like it was a gift given to me too, through being out there driving one of these trucks. And so for me, it's just fun to almost feel like I'm just passing it along, what was given to me through this process. And I wrote a book called Geared for Life, and that's what I say in the book. It's like, look, I don't think there is a secret to life, but I do think that there are gears. And if you know what your gears are, and for me, it's, driving with purpose, not just the truck itself, but in life, failing faster, right? Choosing to believe rather than doubt. Something I called thrash, right? Which is kind of emptying the tank. And then becoming built for others. There are gears like that are so foundational that sometimes you have to make that purposeful decision to almost shift into that gear to get unstuck. And I think all of us experience burnout and stuff like that in life. And sometimes it's just about finding the right gear at the right time. And so that's what that's what I want people to get by the end of this talk, is not that, oh, I've got all the secrets and the solutions to my problems. No, it's, maybe you're stuck because you've worn out the gear that you're in now. Can you just find the next gear? Like, you don't have to have 5 gears. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't know what 6th gear is going to look like. Maybe you've been in 1st gear for 20 years. Can you just shift to 2nd? And if we had an audience full of people that did that, that's a huge win. And that's what we're trying to accomplish with it. And to me, I'm like, if we kind of change that mindset as well, and we understand that, look, we're not going to be perfect in everything that we do. There's no way. But if we can understand to be able to go and succeed and to find that next gear we never knew we had, we got to take the wins. We got to recognize when those small failures can sneak up and like turn those small failures into wins. Like I said, it could be just going out and mowing the grass and seeing that the grass looks better. Or for me, it can be as small as just sweeping out the garage. But when I get focused on winning more, when I get focused on just getting the little things done right, it makes me feel like a winner. And to find that thrash gear to empty that tank, man, it's a question about momentum, because momentum, once you have it, it's the most precious thing. It's the hardest thing to get, and it's the hardest thing to keep. It's not about them getting momentum and trying to keep it. It was all those small failures that built up that just made them feel like a failure. And if they would just recognize that that's what led to the feeling, they can reject the feeling. They can start focusing on getting small wins. They'll feel like a winner, and then they can find this thrash gear. And once you get momentum, it is the most fun thing to work your guts out, to empty the fuel tank. And if you understand what fills you back up, you're not afraid to spin the whole gas tank because you know where the pit area is, right? To sound a touch cliche as a Monster Jam driver, you know where your crew guys are. You know how to get back to them for them to put more fuel in it. You know that you can get more fuel, so you're not afraid to spend it all in your efforts and in your endeavors and goals and dreams and stuff like that. And I love finding that thrash gear. And sometimes it is that purposeful shift into it, knowing that at some point I'm gonna have to shift out and go into a different one. So you might as well maximize that gear while you're in it. And the story behind the flag, so this is a flag that I run off of my monster truck, the Mohawk Warrior truck. But I had a friend that I met through Monster Jam. He was a big fan, and we used one of the flags off the trucks to save his seat when he couldn't come to an event, and it was all due to cancer. And his name is Christian Hetty. And so I tell this story about meeting Christian and then kind of using this flag to drape it over their chairs. And unfortunately, it was because Christian got so bad that they had to call in hospice. And I know exactly where that flag's at that we saved Christian's seats with. But as I'm telling his story, like, people have this big emotional response to it that I wasn't necessarily planning on. I knew it would be a hard story to tell. I knew it would also be a hard story for them to hear. And then after that's all said and done, I give them a flag that also has come off of the truck for somebody, right? I kind of pick a random team or something like that. And I want the flag to be a reminder to some team out there that they have a bigger impact than they'll ever realize. And if that is going to sit in their salon store or maybe in a team room or something like that, I want every time they look at it to remember, look, it's your time now to go and make your impact in this world. And the next person that walks into your salon, into your office, into your team meeting, they need you. And imagine if we had 40,000 stylists across the system that all believed that, and all believed that they could make that shift from good to great, that they could find that next gear, that maybe it's just one encouraging conversation they had with somebody. Talk about a massive, massive ripple effect and impact that we can have on this world. It's not going to be perfect, never is, but you can't play the position if you're not willing to give yourself the grace to make a few mistakes along the way and learn from them. So we're going to have fun. We're prepped. We're ready. I'm excited. And it's because of all the preparation that allows me to go out there and just have a good time doing that.
Hey! What's going on? Hello! Yes! Yeah! How's everybody feeling? Are you excited? Are you sure? I feel some good energy. I don't feel great energy yet, so we're going to have to shift that. Look at that. It's just playing on words already. Hey, we're going to have so much fun. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. Not just that I get to go out there in this world and represent such an amazing, great brand as Great Clips, but you treat me way cooler than I am, all right? And I really shouldn't do this, but I'm going to pop your balloon because just a couple days ago, I had one of the worst dad joke moments and like a facepalm moment I've had in a really long time. Can I do that? Can I tell you what happened? Yeah, anyone like dad jokes? Okay, so here's what happened. Yeah, now, I'm like a 10:30 a.m. kind of person. Can I get an amen on that? Not a 5 a.m.er. Where are my 5 a.m. people in the room? Y'all are psychos. I knew it. I knew we'd have psychos in the room. I was at the airport, and I'm not real talkative yet, and everyone always says something about the mohawk. I get it all the time. Hey, love the hair. I'm like, thanks, I got it at Great Clips. And then I walk away, and they're like, okay, thanks, And but I love it, right? Because I'm bought into this brand. But I had this guy. He's on the jet bridge with me. Did anyone fly here, by the way, for this zone? Anybody get on a plane? Okay. So 5 a.m. I'm on the jet bridge, and this guy comes up to me, and he goes, "Hey, man, nice mohawk." I go, "All right, already like you're way too much energy, And I look at him and say, "Thank you, sir. I appreciate it." Now, sometimes I will say, "Well, I appreciate that. It's actually it's for my job." And then, of course, back, "What in the world kind of job you got?" I didn't say that because, again, it's 5 a.m. And he looks back at me, and I say, "Okay, I appreciate that." He says, "Man, I wish I could grow one of them mohawks." I said, "That's all right. You're just the no-hawk warrior. Don't worry about it. He's bald and all that stuff." And he laughed. "Oh, that's so good. Oh." And he's just like real gregarious and kind of in my face and stuff like that. And so I kind of looked at him, and now I'm kind of starting to loosen up just a little bit. And we're talking about his kids and whatever he's want to take the conversation. I'm just trying to steer away because if the moment he asked me, "What do I do for a living?" it's all over at that point. And now that's going to be a 30-minute discussion. But I look back at him, and finally with the jet bridge, we start moving on to the plane, and we finally get that chance to kind of break away as I go back to the back of the plane, and he's probably a big first-class guy, And I look back at him, and before he broke off, though, I look at him and I say, "All right, man, have a great hair day." And I gave him the finger guns and everything, and it was so embarrassing because I walked away. He lost it. He started inviting me to his children's wedding the next weekend, all that stuff, and I guess I'll officiate that. Don't worry about it. But I was walking away, and I was almost embarrassed for a moment, and then I kind of sat there as I got to my seat, and I went, did I just stumble upon like the best marketing thing ever? Am I going to have to coin this? Have a great hair day? Come on, huh? So it was one of those facepalm moments. I'm not as cool as you think I am, but I appreciate all the love that I get from this team. Now, raise your hand because I've had a chance. If I've had a chance to do a personalized team video for you, you've filled out a form, and maybe you've had just for encourage your team at one point, or maybe you had a team event going on, and you filled out that form, and it's totally free. But I want to let all of you know I am here to serve you. And my goal is to do a video for every single team in the Great Clips system. So don't be afraid to ask. If there's ever anything I can do, a little 3 to 4 minute encouragement for your team or to congratulate and celebrate someone's effort, I want to do that. And so if you follow that QR code, it'll take you to the file. I just realized this morning as I was going through my slides, I'm wearing the same shirt in that photo. It was freaking me out, but it's okay. But if I can ever help you do anything or celebrate the team, I want to do that because we're working hard for you. And Monster Jam, we've been doing some amazing things this year, and I thought you all would appreciate this. This is just the first 7 months through July, getting the Great Clips brand in front of that many people. right? And by the way, there have been events going on in Glendale this past weekend. Monster Jam didn't stop in July. I just had to have my slides finalized then, and so we pulled the numbers as of there. But by show of hands too, anybody come out to our pit party, the Crazy Hair activation? Yeah. Where? Show me your hands. If you've come up to out at any point, raise it, yeah, where you've sprayed hair and done mohawks, let me tell you, I genuinely believe this from the bottom of my heart. It is the most dynamic customer engagement that I have ever seen, not only just in motorsports, but across any marketing campaign. Because it gives you an ability to have that personal touch point with the fan base. And the Monster Jam fans, they love you. Right? So the next time Monster Jam comes through your town, please go out there. I hear it, by the way. I'll go out there, and if we didn't get a team to volunteer, they'll come up to me and through my line, and they'll go, hey, are they spraying hair today? You know, where's the hair tent? I'm like, oh, no, they couldn't make it this weekend. And they're, oh, man, we were looking forward to that. You make such a difference. And so I not only appreciate you doing that, but going forward, if we're anywhere near you, I know it's a commitment. I know that you're just trying to find floor hours and fill roles that week and all that stuff. Come out, because it is making a huge impact in the Monster Jam audience, okay? So I appreciate that. Now, I've stood up on this stage enough times where it's one thing for me just to, talk about what we get to do for you. I figured today I could show you what it looks like to drive the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior truck. Would anyone like to learn maybe a little bit of a driving tutorial? Anybody? Are you sure? Because rental car companies hate Monster Jam drivers, by the way, because our motto is don't be gentle, it's a rental. So if you drove a rental car here, this is not a license to go try this at home. I don't know all the disclaimers I'm legally supposed to say, all right? But we're going to start off with explaining the shock system. Raise your hand if you've been to a Monster Jam event at all. Yep. Now, when we jump these trucks 40 feet in the air, I don't know if you've ever thought, but that truck has to land, doesn't it? And so the shock system that are on these 12,000-pound machines, it is what has enabled us to take this sport to the next level. So this is probably the biggest air I've ever gotten. I was about 40 feet in the air, level with that second tier of that stadium, and I'll be honest, when I hit that jump and I'm midair, I'm going, boy, I hope this lands okay. But if you look up by the tire, there's silver tubes by each tire. We have 2 shocks per tire. Those shocks have about 30 inches of travel. Compare that to the car that you drove here or that's sitting in your driveway. The passenger vehicle probably only has about 6 inches of travel. So we have up to 30 inches of travel. We want that to expand as much as it can. That way, when it lands, it compresses, and hopefully that means Bryce doesn't compress. But it doesn't always quite work out the way you'd planned. So right here, it gave me a really bad rebound. I try to overcorrect. I throttle through it, and in case you're wondering, the part of the chassis that's about to hit does not have shocks on there, and it was lights out for Bryce, all right? So that was probably one of the hardest hits of my career. But the shocks are what allow us to go and create those incredible wow moments for the Monster Jam fans, all right? Now, speaking of wow moments, I think my favorite part as a driver is something called a Monster Jam save. This is where the truck is out of control. It might be in the middle of a crash, and the driver happens to do something to pull the truck out of the cartwheel or out of the crash. And what I like to say is, sometimes in Monster Jam you're lucky, other times you're good. The best Monster Jam moments are when you're both. Can I show you probably one of the biggest highlights of my career where, I'll be honest with you, I was lucky and good at the same time. Do you want to see that? Okay, this one got us the save of the year back in 2019 out of Houston. Hey! Not a bad day at the office, is it? Huh? All right, now, I got to break this down for you because you may not realize just how much goes through a driver's mind in that process. I came off of that jump, and I knew I was going to land a little bit crooked. And so as that truck starts to land, if you look at the back right tire, right about there, there's a big roost of dirt coming off of that. That's because I was wanting to create momentum coming off of that pod, because the worst thing you could ever do in a Monster Jam truck is stop the momentum. If you can just give it throttle, you've got a better chance of controlling it. And so I knew coming off of this pod, my only chance at it not getting out of control was to try to throttle off and throw it. At this point, I knew I was going for a ride though. All right? And so I was just trying to focus, where is the dirt? Because I'm strapped in, I can barely breathe in this thing right now. And I know I'm gonna start tumbling and twirling and cartwheeling, and the best bet is to know where the dirt is. Thankfully, I found it. If you look at the front right tires, I turned the front right tires right into the dirt, and I gave it all the throttle I could, 1,500 horsepower, because again, my goal was just to keep the truck moving. Because if I stopped right now and I would have hit the brakes, it would have died. I had no idea that dirt pile was there. How fortunate was I? And so I got the truck moving, and of course it's going over, and it hits off of that dirt pile. Now this is the first time, think about it, that I could see the stadium lights and that the fans were where they were supposed to be. And so I knew that the truck was starting to come back around, and I had to hit the brake, because the brake is what controls the speed and the rotation of these giant trucks, and it brought it down on all four. Let's watch it in full speed one more time. There you go. You didn't know. Thank you. You had no idea that driving your Great Clips truck was so much fun or difficult, did you, huh? And now all of you can do it. This is great. All right. Don't tell legal that. It's fine. All right, so, okay, by show of hands, one more time, who's been to a Monster Jam event again? Show me. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, so maybe better than a save. If I would have said, what's your favorite part of watching these trucks go, you would have probably said what? A backflip? Anybody love watching backflips? Yeah? Come on. 12-foot tall truck, right? 12,000 pounds. We shouldn't be backflipping these things, should we? But we do. And I'm going to teach you how to do it, all right? All right, so now this is what you normally see from the stands. And my first job, after I do a backflip and we actually land it successfully and the truck isn't broken in half, which is always a lot of fun, is you got to go hit the biggest jump out on the floor. Right? The fans are all pumped up. They're excited you just landed a backflip. You got to roll the dice. Oh, I got another save out of there, right? But that's what you're wanting to do. And you just got to celebrate that moment, because after you land it, you don't always just, keep moving on and just ignore the fact that we're sitting here defying physics, do you? So that's good, right? But I know what you're saying. There was someone over here, you were just muttering it. I heard it over everything. You were saying, that's great, but what does it look like from your point of view? Was that you? I think that was you, wasn't it? Yeah. All right, let me show you what it looks like inside the cab of the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior when I completed that backflip. Can I show that to you? Yeah? Okay, take a look. Pretty cool? Yeah, a little bit chaotic, huh? A little bit chaotic. Now, raise your hand if you think that that's like just another walk in the park and you can do that. Yes, come on. I knew it. Now, the great thing about this is, I'll be honest, as a driver, anytime you actually land it, that moment where I see that the fans are actually right side up and that and the truck is still going and they haven't shut me off because of breakage, that's my favorite part as a driver, because now I know mayhem is about to occur. Right? But here's what I also learned, and remember these points, because I'm going to quiz you on these later. There's actually 4 points and steps to completing a Monster Jam backflip, all right? I need to break these down for you. As soon as I turn that corner, I'm picking a focal point that might as well be about as big around as a quarter. And I'm going to stare at that on that container. I'm going to watch that spot all the way in as I approach. Step number 2 is to fully commit. I've got 1,500 horsepower. As soon as the front tires touch, I want to use every single one of them to get the truck to bounce off of that. And then step number 3 is to find your bearings. Think about how chaotic that moment is. The fans went upside down. The stadium lights all of a sudden are jumping through the windshield. I'm looking for the dirt to come back into my field of view because then I'm going to hit that brake pedal, stop the rotation of those giant 66-inch tall tires, and then hopefully, right, land it back on all fours just like that. Oh, and I miss a shift in the process. All right, let's watch that one more time in full speed since I know that now you're well trained. Pretty cool? Yeah? All right, now who thinks they can do that with the car in your driveway now? Now, a couple of you. Yes, there we go. I knew it was you saying that earlier. I knew it. Yeah, it's amazing that that's my office, isn't it? Now, where are my OCD people at? Oh, yeah. How many points did I give you that we have for completing a Monster Jam backflip? How many did I say? 4. Yeah. How many did I give you? 3. Yeah. Okay. A couple people are listening. Wonderful. Here's step number 4. Because we are so guilty sometimes, not only in life, but I do it sometimes in Monster Jam, where we don't slow down long enough to enjoy the moment. Step number 4 is to fan the flame, right? As soon as I land that backflip or something cool happens, I love getting out of the truck. I bruised my sternum right there, by the way. But I love getting out of the truck because, man, we've got this one chance to come out here as a Monster Jam driver, and I don't want to forget how crazy of a life this is. I want to slow down long enough to hear the fans, to hear their excitement, to hear the memories that they're making. That's what I've become addicted to, by the way. It's not, my favorite part of driving is not my name up in lights. Can you imagine for a moment, some of you have had these moments, imagine the conversations on the way home for a family when they leave Monster Jam. The memories that they create, the things that they're going to talk about for weeks to come. And it's not just the 6-year-old, give me a break. Hey, I don't care if you're 46 or 86, you just had an amazing time at Monster Jam and you're enjoying the process. And you had new memories that just got made together as a family. And so, to me, I actually look back at this process not that long ago, and I looked at, and I said, you know, there was a time in my life that I would have said I led a really good life. And I started asking myself, when I made the shift from good to great, what changed? And I realized that I followed these same 4 steps, believe it or not. And the first step, what was the first step again to the Monster Jam backflip? Focal point, that's right. So here's what I've realized along the years. It's less about what I wanted to do and accomplish, and it's way more important who I wanted to become. I don't think you heard that. The what is important, but the who matters way more. When I realized that I wanted to become a better version of myself, and I knew what that better version looks like, then the what followed along with it. And here's what I mean. Some of you might have seen this. I'm so proud of this. I just published my very first book a couple weeks ago, and hang with me because it might be a shameless book plug, but I promise I'm not trying to sell you a bunch of books, all right? But you can follow the QR code if you'd like to buy it. It's called Geared for Life, Making the Shift into Your Full Potential. We did bring a bunch, by the way, here. I would love for anyone that wants a copy to buy a copy. I'll be out after everything's wrapped up today. I'd love to sign it for you. I'd love to hear what's going on in your life. And even if you don't buy a book, you want to come and get a picture, I would love that. But I'll be out after John and Margie wrap up this session, and we'll have books for sale out there, all right? But making the shift into your full potential. Here's what I realized. I don't believe that there's a secret to life. But I do believe that there are gears. If you're somebody that looked up at me and said, Bryce, how do you become an Olympic gold medalist? I don't have a clue. You know, I don't have a clue. I don't have all this figured out. I'm trying to figure out life with the rest of you. But if I was an expert in something, it was that I rarely get stuck. And when I do, I've learned what my gears are, and I shift out of the gear I'm in now, and I shift into another one. And someone said, what's your favorite gear? Because I share my 7 personal gears, what I believe are my foundational beliefs that are in this book that have allowed me to stay unstuck in this process. And they said, what's your favorite one? And you know what my answer is? Whatever the next one is. because I'm not ready to stop. Now, are there times that I got to shift into a different gear? Yes, but my favorite gear is whatever the next one is. And here's what happened, right? In my focal point moment, I had a call with my publisher. And I looked at my publisher and I said, guys, I'm not an author. I'm just going to tell you that right off the bat. I'm not an author. I love speaking, right? I love putting a talk together. I love having this moment, this energy, but I'm not an author. And I went through this whole thing for them, and they allowed me to get through it all, and then they allowed me to stop talking. They said, Bryce, you got to realize you wrote a book. You are an author. And I thought to myself, you know what? That's very true, because if I'm sitting there, what's the qualification to be an author? You got to write a book. I never said it was a good book, right? I hope you guys love it. I think you will. We've had some incredible feedback so far on it. But I had to realize that, you know why I was okay calling myself an author? Because the what of writing a book wasn't why I wrote the book. It was because I knew who I wanted to be. I got into work typing all of that out because I wanted to be someone who used the motorsports platform to impact this world. That's who I wanted to be. So the book kind of fit in with that. Do you get it? Now, if we're going to shift from good to great, we've got to make a couple perspective shifts, all right? And finish this sentence for me, because you've heard it your whole life, right? Fake it till you make it. But and that's a good perspective. But if you're going to find that next year, if you're going to find great, it's not fake it till you make it, it's believe it until you become it. Do you remember that first day on the job? Do you remember the first shift that you pulled? Do you remember walking up and, oh my goodness, someone put someone in your chair and now you're expected to give them an incredible mohawk, right? I'm sure your first haircut was a mohawk, wasn't it? Did you start off with buzz cuts? Why? Right? Whatever that was, do you remember that first day, the first customer that you greeted? And that mentality a lot of times is, oh man, you got to fake it until you make it. But chances are, if you've been around this team for any length of time, at some point you had to believe that you were the best option for whatever customer walked in next. Maybe it took you a year, maybe it took you 5 years, maybe 25 years. But the ability for you to go in there and make a real difference for your customers, you had to know that you were their best option, didn't you? Yeah. All right, what's the second step to a Monster Jam backflip? Come on, who said that? Let's go. Let's go. I got one person that wrote some notes. Now, finish this for me. When one door closes, another door opens. That's right. Now, I've got a personal story to tell you. You're not going to like this story, at least at first. Did you know 7 years ago when I was approached to drive your truck, I said no? I know. I got a couple boos. I said no. What happened was they came to me and they called me up. Now, I was in my corporate job. I had a really good life. I had a really good 401k. I was placing CFOs and CEOs into private equity-backed companies. I had a really good career going. And so when Monster Jam first called me, and I was driving a truck about 12 weekends out of the year, a truck called Monster Mutt. Anybody? It's a big dog-themed truck. I sent my wife a text after they told me that first year, by the way, like, hey, they're putting me in a truck. It's called Monster Mutt. She sends me a gift back of mutt cuts from Dumb and Dumber going airborne. I was like, this girl is mine, you know? I knew right there I was going to love this girl the rest of my life. But all of a sudden that first year, I was just 12 weekends, and it was a hobby for me. It was fun. And so when Monster Jam called me, I really struggled. Now, I'll pop the balloon just a little bit. I didn't know it was Great Clips, all right? So I didn't know who I was saying no to. But when they called me, they said, we've got a sponsored truck that has come available, and we want to know if you're interested in being the driver of the truck. I immediately said no, because I knew what it took to become a brand ambassador because of my background in professional drag racing. I knew the commitment. It couldn't just be a hobby. I couldn't be going in both directions. I couldn't be pursuing this professional career and become a brand ambassador for a large company. I told them no. And they said, okay, all right, thanks. I went back to my life. They called me a month later. Hey, Bryce, we know you said to take your name off the list and everything, but we didn't. And you're still you're one of the finalists of this truck. And I, of course, on the other end of the line, I said, thank you guys so much. I'm really honored and I'm humbled. But the answer is still no. Please remove my name. Because I don't see how that would ever connect with what I was doing at the time. I said, okay, all right, thanks. Click. One more month goes by. I get a phone call. Hey, Bryce, how you doing? Like, they're a little more chipper than normal, right? I'm like, what do you want? Said, we know you said twice to take your name off this list. But now you've officially been chosen as the driver of this truck. What's it going to take? You know what my first response to them was? I said, who's the company? They told me it was Great Clips. I said, okay. Talk to me a little bit about this, that, and the other thing. I was talking about, what they thought the responsibilities would be and all the things. And then I got off of that call, and I didn't tell them yes or no, but I went to work because my job at that point was research. I found everything about your company, as much as is available online. All the franchisees out there, I got my hands on your FDD. I'm probably the only Monster Jam driver that even knows what an FDD is, to be fair, but I read through all that FDD, all your disclosures. I wanted to understand on paper about your company. I got really excited about how this company was built. I got so excited that it was still privately held. I got so excited the fact that there's 40,000 stylists in the system and 1,000, what I call 1,000 CEOs. That's what you guys are to me, franchisees, right? 1,000 business owners that I could go in there and partner with. So no matter where I went in the market, it was all about you and your team. And I was struggling, though, because, again, I had a really good life going. I was struggling, and I was on the phone with somebody. I was out in the garage, had nothing to do with this decision. And I was talking to them about my kids, probably, at that point. And I stopped long enough to look around my shop walls. I looked all around them, and I said, you know what? Every single piece of memorabilia, every memory that I had, everything had to do with motorsports. There wasn't a single, picture I had put up of some CEO I had placed somewhere. It was all had to do with motorsports. And I remembered who I wanted to be, not even just as a little kid, but as that 18-year-old. I remembered my focal point. I remembered that I wanted to be someone who impacted the world through the platform of motorsports. I got off of that phone call. I called Monster Jam right away, and I said, I'm in. And here we are 7 years later. And I feel like because of our partnership, thank you. It's because of our partnership and all the commitment from each and every single one of you that have enabled this partnership to get better every single year, year after year, in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I just want you to keep letting me, you saw my office earlier, right? Up there in the truck. But here's what I've realized. A good perspective, right? When one door closes, another door opens. A great perspective is when one door closes, grab a sledgehammer. Monster Jam and all of you were my sledgehammer. Because that door shut for me years back in professional drag racing. It shut, and I went down this good life. But I realized in that moment, standing in my garage, when I had to make that final decision to go all in and fully commit to this, that a lot of times going from good to great is just that, a decision. Sometimes we're waiting for permission to become great. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm giving you your permission. You don't need to leave this zone and feel like you're still waiting. I don't care if this is your first zone or your 35th zone. You have full permission from not just me, but every single person that steps on this stage, from the person that brought you here and gave you this trip. You have full permission to become great. If you've got the courage to grab that sledgehammer, all right? This is the point in the talk where I actually change gears myself, because I've shown you a lot of the highlights. Can I show you one of the most embarrassing moments of my career? Okay. Now, I got to set the stage for just a minute. Remember that first year, right? Just got named as the Great Clips driver. We're up in Minneapolis. Where is Great Clips based? Yep, that's right. So we had about 250 people up in the stands. It was the first time that the company was getting to see their truck in action. Monster Jam came to me and they said, hey, we want you to do a backflip. I had not done a backflip before. And I said, how does that work? And they said, well, go talk to some other drivers. They gave me not even the find your bearings. They basically said, hey, as soon as the truck hits the dumpster, give it all the throttle you got, get it to rotate, and just hope you land it on your first one. I said, okay, I got it. I'm all fired up. Rob Goggins is up in the suite, okay? I had one of our Monster Jam people go up to Rob and say, hey, Mr. Great Clips president, Rob Goggins, we're going to let Bryce do a backflip. It's his first time, okay? And this is what happened. I think it was the pyrotechnics that were the most embarrassing for me, right? There was like this moment, and I was told later that Rob Goggins leaned over to our Monster Jam guy and said, well, you can tell it was his first. Oh, great, this partnership's really off to the right step, isn't it? And, here's what's also terrible. I thought I was really high up in the air. Isn't that really bad? Yeah, well, what happened is I turned the corner, and as I was approaching that container, I was using my foot on the brake to steady the truck. I don't run with my left foot near the brake pedal, okay? In the rest of freestyle, I pulled it up there to get it a little bit stationary and set. The problem was no one told me how hard it feels to hit a container like that. And so I never dropped my foot back off of the brake, and so my feet looked like that going to it, and it hit so hard, it threw my left foot forward and just tapped the brake just enough to kill all my momentum. And then you saw the flop. That was a back flop, not a back flip, okay? And my question, though, because I look back at most of my goals and the things that I want to go and accomplish, how many times do I approach them the same exact way? I've got one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. If we're going to fully commit to what this team is doing, where you want to go and who you want to become, and the goals that you're going to set coming off of this zone meeting, we have got to take our left foot away from the brake. And so my question to all of you is, what's your brake pedal? What's been your brake? What have you been kind of nursing over there a little bit? Right? What excuses have you been giving yourself to not be great? What abilities do you feel like you do not have? What are the areas that you feel like, well, once I improve upon this thing, but Bryce, you don't understand, I've not finished this. But Bryce, you don't understand, I don't know how to do this. But Bryce, stop calling me but Bryce. If you're going to fully commit to what this team's doing and where we're going, we've got to understand what your brake pedal is and make sure you drop your foot away from it and go all in with that throttle. Can you do that for me? Yeah. Step number 3 to a Monster Jam backflip. Where am I at? Let's go. Come on. Find your bearings. A couple months back, I was in Nashville, and it was our World Finals competition. This is our Super Bowl. Biggest event. People come to this from all over the world. Now, we've had a really good season. And to me, it's all about trying to etch your name into the history books with Monster Jam oftentimes. And to be able to do that, you have to win a World Finals championship. And this was going to be my year. This was going to be our team's year. All right? We were going to, and probably our best competition was going to be in racing. I was fast. I qualified 4th. I went out in that first competition, the first race, smoked them. Came out in the quarterfinals, and this is what happened. Came off the starting line, dropped in. As soon as the dirt touched the main part right there, totally dead. Truck died. I threw it into the corner just hoping by some miracle the truck would start back up, and I'm frustrated at this point. I'm like, how did this happen? Man, we just missed a royal opportunity to be able to go out there. I just had to beat Megalodon. I was smoking them every step of the way, and then I would have been in the semifinals. I just would have had to race 2 more, make 2 more runs, 2 more wins, and now I'm in the history books. Now I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to get the truck to refire. Couldn't get it to refire. Finally, the crane of shame, as I like to call them, comes out, hooks the truck up, and starts pushing me off. And I started thinking to myself, you know what, Bryce? Suck it up, Buttercup. We got to go back and get this truck in the pit area, find out the problem, because we still have our freestyle competition. We thought we found it, and the issue came out for freestyle. I turned this corner, lined up, and I'm ready for vengeance. The truck dies again. There was something in the EFI system, electronic fuel injection system, and it was causing the truck to delete the tune from itself. It wasn't telling the motor what to do. And I'm just panicking at that point. I know it was the electronic fuel injection system. I start hitting that dashboard as hard as I could because I'm just hoping if it's a loose connection or something, right? The chances of that being a fix was, 0.0001%. I'm doing whatever I could, praying that this truck is going to refire. And I'm not giving up on it until I get the call from my crew guy when finally they said, Bryce, you're done. And my heart split in half. This is not the way the story was supposed to go. I started getting really mad at this point, by the way. Before I'm hitting the screen, I'm not mad. I know a lot of you don't think I've got a mad streak. I do, right? I was so heartbroken because, man, coming into this, we were going to write history, not this chapter. This was beyond chaos to me. This isn't how I wanted the story to go. The fans didn't. And for the rest of my career, I'll try to figure this out. The fans were cheering for me in a really dark. They should have booed me off that floor. I'll still never understand why they chose to do that. But as I'm going off that floor and I'm saying to myself, you know what? This wasn't the way that you thought the story was going to go, but it went this way. I went back to the locker room. I was trying to collect myself, and I said, okay, it wasn't your story. It wasn't your moment, but it's going to be one of your buddies' best day of their lives. And I had to make the decision to shift into a different gear of being built for other people that I outline in my book. And when Colt Stevens, my buddy, won his first Monster Jam World Finals championship, I was right there. I was the first guy to give him the biggest hug he's ever gotten in his life, because I was happy for my friend. And I'm not telling you that just to pat myself on the back. What I'm trying to say is, in those moments of chaos, a lot of times the only way through it is to make the purposeful decision to shift into a different gear. And if you know what gears are available to you, you won't stay stuck. I felt like I really lost that weekend. I lost the opportunity. Lost the moment, lost the history. And we hear this all the time. This is a good perspective, okay? This is a good perspective. Finish this for me. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You know how many times I heard that night? Bryce, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, buddy. And that's a good perspective. I'm not interested in good. I want great. It's not sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And if you understand that you never really actually lose as long as you're getting the lesson from your pain. Look at me. Don't waste your pain, by the way. Don't waste it. If you got to go through it, get something from it. Get the lesson and then go and apply it somewhere and make this world a better place. And it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to, take your neck harness off and, hit the golf cart. I don't know if that was okay. It's okay, but it's not okay to stay there. Don't waste your pain. And sometimes it takes that cognizant decision to shift into that next gear. Where's our fourth step? Fourth step to a monster. Fan the flame. That's my girl. Come on. Fan the flame. One of the hardest parts of my job, because it's the most exhausting, it's our Monster Jam pit parties. For 4 hours straight, I got a constant line of people coming through. And this constant line of people, I want to make sure that those families, I've got 2 to 3 seconds between each one to catch my breath and go, okay, have a great day. Hey guys, how you doing, right? Well, my goal is that every single group that comes through there feels like the most important people to ever come through my line. That's my goal. Do I do it perfectly every time? Absolutely not. Okay, but I get tired. And engaging with people that way can be exhausting to the point sometimes I will be sitting in the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior truck, belted in, helmet on, right before the anthem starts playing, and I have fallen asleep before. I'm getting ready to go out there and do battle in a 12,000-pound truck, and I fell asleep and took a nap because it's kind of comfortable hanging against the seat belts, I guess. But it's because of the effort coming out of the pit party events. Well, I had a little boy come through, and he came through my pit party line, and he showed me a picture. It went just like that. He said, hey, man, I met you a year ago. And I took the picture and about to go sign it because that happens a lot. And I stopped just like that and looked back up at this kid, looked back down. I knew what was going on. He was in the middle of cancer. He had that look. He was right in the middle of treatment. His hair had fallen out. He looked like a totally different kid. Now, of course, in that moment, I stopped. What's your name? Excuse me. What's your name, buddy? He said, my name's Christian Hetty. I love you. I love Kansas City Chiefs. I love shoes. He said, I'm all about this. I said, okay, man, that's awesome, buddy. I appreciate the support. I said, tell me a little bit about your story. He talks to me about the cancer that he's fighting, and his mom was standing right there, and they were really hopeful, and they said, look, as we fight through this, one of the things that we love is following Monster Jam around. And a couple months later, I believe it was Kansas City, and Christian Hetty was from there, and all of a sudden he came and he saw me, and I got to meet him. That's Christian. And if you notice the tumor that's right, it's on his neck. It's the closest side to me. It was wrapped around an artery, and that was the one they just couldn't get. And if you notice his awesome shoes, you probably can't see it from the floor, but they're black and purple Nikes because he was supporting his Great Clips Mohawk Warrior team. And we were standing there, we were celebrating things with him. And by the way, he walked up to me and he said, hey, Bryce, by the way, last week, you really didn't fully commit to your freestyle run. Thanks, Christian, appreciate it. And if there was anybody that was there to give me that feedback and I was going to accept it, it was going to be Christian Hetty. All right? But he said something else and it's stuck with me ever since. He said, don't waste the moment. And I thought, how could a 12-year-old kid have that kind of wisdom? And it's because he was going through something, because every moment was so precious to him, wasn't it? Every moment he knew, how could you waste that moment? It wasn't just don't waste the moment being a Monster Jam driver, which was his dream to grow up and be. But he knew it. He said, look, time is precious. He knew that time was precious. And about a month or two later, I was going to see him at another event. He started progressing and getting more and more sick, and I got a message from his mom about 3 days before, and she told me hospice had been called in. And now I start kind of breaking down, because one of the hardest things is meeting these kids and meeting these warriors. I wear warrior across my chest, but these kids embody it. Cancer's touched everybody in some way, shape, or form with somebody that's been in your life. Maybe you've lost somebody. And when hospice was called in, for some reason I was still hopeful that he was going to somehow be able to come. Unfortunately, he was not able to travel. And he was only awake maybe about 4 hours a day out of that time. And I thought to myself, he should be here. This shouldn't be a thing that's taking kids' lives like this. And I took a flag off the truck. It looked just like this one. Took our flag off of the Great Clips truck. And I looked at it and I said, I want the stadium to know what's going on. I want the stadium to know that there's a family that should be here. And so we took this flag and we went up and we found his seats. And we draped him over his seats. And this was probably 45 minutes before Monster Jam started. And right before I go out there for my pre-show interview, I take my cell phone and I look at the packed stands. And I said, guys, I told them what was going on. I said, on the count of 3, I want you guys to say, we love you, Christian. And I started videoing, and I said, 1, 2, 3. They go, we love you, Christian. I'm sorry, it's hard to get through, but his mom told me just a couple days later, because he passed probably within 48 hours of that moment, and his mom told me after the funeral that it was one of the only smiles that they got out of him that day when they saw 40,000 people celebrating him. So when I say don't waste the moment, it's not just a tagline. It's not. It's because all of us, we all have that little matchstick that's sitting in our chest, and different things will light that match. And if we understand how to fan that flame and you can find the focal point, you're fully committed to it, and you've got the courage to go through and find your bearings when the chaos hits, now you're ready to fan the flame and turn that into the biggest bonfire you've ever seen. Now, I brought this flag. I do want to give it away to somebody. And I heard about a lady that's been around for quite some time, and the two daughters that just took over. And I think the thing that I love the most about this system is this 2.0, I say 2.0, second gen. Because that's the biggest testament to any business system I've ever seen is the second generation wanting to be in business with mom and dad. I know it doesn't always work. But where's Melissa Clancy? Are you here? Where's Melissa? Where's Melissa? Now, Megan and Aaron are with you as well, right? Where's Megan and Aaron? Okay, daughters, right? First zones, I believe. And I didn't even plan this, that you were going to be right up front. I want to give this to you guys, not just in memory of Christian, but I want you to know how much I believe in you. I want your team, whenever you see it, whatever salon it ends up in, or whatever team or whoever's mantle it'll go over, I want you, every time you look at it, to know that being great is truly a choice. And if you've got the courage to make that shift from good to great, you guys are limitless. You're truly, truly limitless, and I believe in you, okay? Can I give this to you? Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. As we wrap up, I just want you to know one thing, that what I just said is the most important thing you could ever hear. Because sometimes we're so in love with good, we don't have the courage to decide to be great. Make today that day that you make that decision to truly go in and go all in and be great. Imagine what we can do. Imagine what all of a sudden 40,000 stylists across the system that finally understand the dynamic that we have our hands on and the communities out there across North America. Imagine what happens if every day that you walk into that system, every day you walk into that team, if you're wanting to add instead of take, imagine the power that we can have. Imagine what happens when you're not just focused only on that next customer that walks in. But what about the person sitting across your table right now? I got a story about the flag I gave last week, and most people have not heard this. I think about 3 people have. I'm over time, but can I share it with you? Because I think it'll touch your heart. I didn't know what happened. I gave the flag to a team, and that whole day and the day before, they kept seeing me in the elevators and stuff, and they said, "Oh, it's fate. Oh, it's Bryce, it's fate. Oh, it's fate." Saw him the next morning on the sidewalk going to get coffee. They said, "Oh, it's fate. Look, it's fate." I'm giving that flag, and I walk up to him, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "You kept saying it's fate, maybe it is." I handed them the flag and spoke over them just like I just did, and it was great and all that fun stuff, and I was out there signing books afterwards. They came through my line, and the franchisee said, "Bryce, I'm sorry I wasn't there to take the flag when you gave it to us. I had to step out when you were talking about Christian." She said, "We just got the news that my daughter with stage 4 cancer, there's nothing else that we can do." And my heart erupted again. Because for us, what we're doing, it not only just matters, but do you see that all of this is great in theory? But there could be somebody right across your table. Maybe it's you. But we don't have to go out there in downtown Pittsburgh to make a difference and to make an impact. Sometimes fate brings us together. And imagine if we all actually believed that. Imagine the difference we can make. And imagine the lives that we can change. And that's what you have your hands on. Delivering great. That's an awesome poster to have. It's an awesome banner. But imagine delivering great across North America and the ripple effects that we can truly have if we're ready to truly make that shift. Are you ready? And so as we wrap up, I just want to tell you one last thing, because we have got the time and the effort to go and pour our hearts. Don't be scared to pour your heart out to other people. Today's the day. Don't leave Pittsburgh with your foot on that brake. Drop it away. Understand who you want to be and have the courage to find your bearings in that chaos. If you do that, you cannot lose. All right? Guys, let's go find that next gear that we never knew we had. Can you do that for me? I love you guys so much. Thank you for the privilege of representing this brand. Thank you for thinking I'm cooler than I am. We've got so much more left to go and accomplish. Let's do it together. I love you guys.
So I immediately know the things I would do differently, but I really think that that's part of after you do a talk and you always want to make it better, there's no such thing as a perfect talk, a perfect presentation. And I skipped over a slide, and I was okay, thinking on my feet and adjusting. And then at the end, I was a little bit over time. So to save that, I just basically, wrapped up the last couple of slides in a couple sentences and away, right? Not rushed it, because we still put a nice little bow on the talk as a whole. But I got the emotional response, and I don't know that I was prepared for such an intense emotional response. I could see people crying and stuff like that. And so, over the years, if that's ever happened to me, it's like, that, okay, you kind of feel like you knocked them down, and you got to, as a speaker, try to pick them all back up. And so at the end, you almost want that locker room feel of that rah-rah moment of going, okay, what do we do from here? Okay, we talked about the decision points and the decision of changing from good to great and making that decision to become great. But what do we actually do, and how do we apply it? It's one thing to feel something. It's another thing to know what to do coming out of there. So I feel good about that. I'm going to feel really, really great about this cookie.